we saw in Adweek, that AI skills, where they're kind of seeing the growth happening. Curiously, it's been growing in government most, and then healthcare, and then like marketing and advertising is kind of in the middle, in between, healthcare, government, and tech, which is curious, I thought. One of the things, though, I wonder is that, AI's kind of been around for a little bit. So I do wonder if like a lot of marketers and like people in advertising have already been in AI, and that now, because they're talking about growth, like how much more it's been growing in this past year. So LinkedIn ran this survey, and they're the ones that published the data. The government has seen 28% growth, and then marketing is at 12%. So from what kind of just, anecdotally, I know that a lot more like marketing folks are using AI or have been amenable to it in any case. So there wouldn't necessarily be as much growth shown here. And so they're showing that AI strategy skills is like 189%. So that's where they're seeing like most of the where people are thinking that like that's the trajectory of like what is AI strategy, and how are we incorporating it into our company and like using it in order to grow our skills. Prompt engineering, which is figuring out how you're getting the LLM to like answer the question for you. That's gone on 79%. And they're showing that junior roles have been hit the hardest, while management stays steady. Recruiters are noting that younger talent is naturally a little bit more AI fluent, which, makes sense. They're the ones that are like, learning more of the things, and like skills. So one of the things I want to call out here is early marketing roles have changed, right? Like it used to be that you're kind of just, coming on as a junior and you're like learning pretty much everything along the way. That's kind of how I came up, right? Like I moved into a marketing role, started in social media, and then grew into like an email marketing role. So kind of, tried a little bit of everything, but I learned on the job, right? That doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Companies these days just really seem to want people to already have skills as they're going in. So don't don't just assume that you're going to get taught things. Now you just have to be, taking that on a little bit more for yourself. And what does that mean? It means that you can't just use ChatGPT and Midjourney, trying it out. Like now you have to kind of start thinking about the strategy behind it, like strategically about how you're going to implement AI into like your work and beyond, right? So one of the things that is being called out here is that a lot of the younger demographics who like know AI are able to teach their higher ups and superiors a little bit more about AI, and like teach them like, hey, have you thought about us using AI in this way? Or like, how about, we try AI, on this part of our, business plan or strategy. So that's making them kind of separate themselves from, everybody else. So it gives you a one up in terms of like what you're providing, that it's not just, you're there to like learn, but you're also offering like new perspectives. So, take advantage of that, like start learning how you can incorporate AI into like your own process and like flow, and then like how others can like use it. Whether that's like teaching them how to do it or like, coming up with like the rules or kind of like the process behind being able to use it going forward. Another thing is that, you have to think about that this whole idea of being like fluent in AI is only going to be like a thing that is, like for the next 2 to 3 years before, everybody else starts catching up. So like that's something that you just have to start incorporating into the way that you're doing things in order to separate yourself from everybody now. And like I said, using it as a way to teach more senior people how they can do things in order for them to start relying on you, to own things, and, own AI strategy or own AI incorporation at your company.
I think the bigger takeaway is, well, what can I do or what can I hone that AI can't replace as easily? And I think if we think about how AI is often used, well, is now used as a tool to make existing marketers And I'm saying marketers because that's our industry, not because only marketers use it, which obviously we know is not the case. It's, that now the savvier marketers are incorporating AI into their workflow. And so that's already a cohort of people who are already savvy, who are presumably already talented, who are now adding on this additional tool that makes them better at their jobs. So I think something that's really important is what are the skills you need to build up to be savvy? And then second to that is how do you then incorporate AI into a workflow where it makes sense for you and for your business. So I think one of the most important skills that somebody can hone now, whether you are young or old, whatever wherever you are in the workforce, is some sense of taste,
Mm.
like a good sense of curation. Like, how do you know what information is good and what isn't good? How do you know what kind of writing will resonate with your customer? How do you, like the things like that that you can't really outsource to AI because AI is just going to tell you what it is based on a series of what's statistically likely to be. It can't really tell you how to think. Only you would know how to think. And if you know how to think well, then it becomes a tool that ideally that you would use to be better at your job.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to think about it as when I was coming up, social media wasn't a thing, right? I mean, it was a thing in terms of like, hey, we're all on, Facebook, and have you heard about, Twitter and all that. But the whole idea of a social media marketing strategy, like that didn't become a thing. Like I was like the first at my company when I first came up to start using it as a strategy, right? So it was like that became my differentiator, right? Where it's just like, oh, I know social media and I know how to like, use it to talk to people and like engage with consumers. So that's kind of like how I see AI, but so it's like you use it as a way to grow like your own skills in whatever you're interested in at the time, right? Like this doesn't have to be like just go learn AI. Like it's not about that. It's like, well, what aspects of AI interest you the most, right? Because it's not the same for everybody. And not every type of AI is going to be useful for every type of company, right? You have to go kind of figure that out, right? But I think I agree with Amanda where having a baseline of like being able to write, knowing how to think, knowing how to critically think, like those are the things that are also going to like matter a lot. And AI can't really do that for you, right? That's kind of what we were talking about earlier, where everything kind of like reverts to the mean, or like people can't infer and people can't, make connections, or it's like you have to be told what to do. Like that's not really going to like help you to empathize with like your potential customer, which I think is like super useful for marketers. It's like, how do you figure out like what your customer wants and how they want it? That's kind of like things that you're learning as you're going. One other thing, to call out here is that as someone who is older, is not like junior. A lot of companies have professional development budgets, so maybe think about using that to learn AI training in order to use the benefit, and then try to add more skills to like to what you're doing. It's one way that we're kind of seeing companies like not provide raises, like monetary raises, but this is another way that maybe you can like ask them to give you a budget to like spend to this, that then take to your like next job that is willing to give you more money to do, but you'll at least have a bit more skills to like put yourself out there. If you are interested in AI, I think this is also helpful for you to start finding companies that you want to work at, or the companies that are positioning themselves as being AI first, or that have shown that they're interested in implementing AI into the company. Because not all companies want that right now. Though, I mean, that could be another thing you also pitch yourself as, right? For the companies that aren't quite, implementing it right now, that could be a way that you kind of differentiate yourself. Like say like, oh, I can, I've learned how to use AI to do this and would love to like, use it to bring up the whole company. But a little bit more opportunities as people are looking for ways to market themselves to companies to get hired.